Alright, now with the variable selection methodologies, the three approaches, forward selection, backward elimination, and stepwise, we have determined that the best model is one with Z sub 1, 2, 3, and 5. So let's summarize those. Independent variables in the selected model are, so Z sub 1, 2, 3, and 5, and they correspond to the variable names are right here. So Z sub 1 is L1 unleaded, that's our X sub 1, Z sub 2, Z sub 3, then Z sub 5 is L1 housing, so that's our X sub 7. So these are the variables in the selected model. Okay, so now we can develop our ordinary least squares estimate, and we need the variable data set assembled for x1, x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3, and x sub 7. So let's do that here. So we need 1, 2, 3, and 7. That's what we need. Okay. So Z sub 1, 2, 3, and 5. So that's our x sub 1, 2, 3, and x sub 7. So those are L1 unleaded, L1 crude, L1 unemployment, and L1 housing. Okay. So that's starting from period 2. So we have Z sub 1, 2, and 3, and then housing, which is that. So now we copy these. So now we have the data, right? So let's, now we set up the model. We'll use linest function. So there are 4 independent variables. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we need one more for the y-intercept. And then we select 5 rows of input, and then linest. So we give the first item is the dependent variable. So unleaded gas price, it's in column G. Okay. And then the x variables are these 4 columns. Okay. So you have the y range, comma, x range, and then you have to do comma, comma 1. And that comma, comma 1 will generate a intercept, and it will generate extended results. Then you close parenthesis, and then you have to do Control Shift Enter. Control Shift, keep them depressed, and then press Enter, and that generates the output for us. So here it is. So let's do some formatting. Okay, so the overall R squared is right here, 97%, which is pretty good, and the standard error is 13.19. The overall significance, so the F value is that one. So the P value is F dot this dot RT of that F, comma, the degrees of freedom. How many variables are there? 4 variables. That's your numerator degrees of freedom, and denominator degrees of freedom is right here. So that gives us the P value, which is close to 0. That's the overall significance. Now we can also do individual significance. Okay, these are X sub, these variables are, okay, let's copy the variable names. The individual variable names are, okay, if we're going to take these values and do the test. So the variable names are kind of backwards. We start from there, and this one is for that, this one is for that, and this one is for that. So these are the variables. Okay. Now the T-calc is you take the coefficient and divide by the standard error of the coefficient. So that will give us the T value. And we do that for all of them. Okay, so let's put the underline. Okay, and then the P value is T dot this dot 2T, so it's a two-tailed test for individual significance, and you have to take the absolute value of the T-calc, so T-calc can be positive or negative, and the degrees of freedom is the degrees of freedom for SSE, and it should always come from this cell, so we need to make that into a absolute reference. So change that to a percentage and copy, and you see that they are all significant. Overall significance is determined here, and individual significance are now computed individually. And now we have a completed model that we can use for forecasting gas prices in the holdout sample. So we still have the holdout sample. So we will now look at the holdout sample and see how well forecasting, the estimated forecasting model performs with respect to the forecasting error measures, mean error, mean absolute error, mean absolute percent error.